can honestly say PT saved my life.
Many soldiers and officers will tell you about the importance of physical training, not only to ensure their bodies can withstand the harshest of conditions, but also to aid them with emotional and mental perspective. In late 2016, Lieutenant General Charles Costanza discovered that PT was the difference between life and death.
So I was a brigade commander. I was 3rd Brigade at Fort Benning. Great location, great place. And so Fridays, I would do long runs, and I would let everybody know, hey, if you want to talk to the brigade commander, here's the route, come meet me. And people would dive in and have a conversation and dive out on the runs. And it was 5 miles out and 5 miles back. And then one day, I got to the 5 mile turnaround point and I couldn't run back. I mean, physically, my body was just not going to let me do it. And so I reduced it to 4 miles out, 4 miles back. Eventually, I couldn't do that. And when it got to the point where I couldn't go a mile out and a mile back, that's when I went and saw the doctor.
The doctor figured it was a blood pressure problem, but ran some tests just to be safe. A day later, General Costanza received a call back.
They say, hey, sir, you got to go to the emergency room right now. Have somebody else drive you. Don't drive yourself. Walked over to the emergency room, and they're waiting with a wheelchair for me. They said, sir, you got to sit in this wheelchair. We got to wheel you in.
General Costanza had a brain tumor.
The tumor was causing me to waste my sodium because it was affecting the glands up in my head. You know, I was wasting my sodium out. And what the doc said is, hey, so your sodium level's so low that you should either be dead or in a coma. And I'm like, well, I'm obviously not. So I spent Christmas in the hospital waiting for my surgeon and my ENT doc to get back. And then right after the holidays is when they did the surgery.
It wasn't until after the surgery that he was told just how close he had come to dying. Even his now ex-wife, who was an ER nurse, withheld from him that the odds of survival were in the single digits.
She never shared that because what she didn't want me to do was quit. I mean, it's kind of a flippant comparison, but it's like Ranger School, right? So Ranger School, as soon as you start feeling sorry for yourself, what happens? You quit. So when they rolled me in there, I totally expected I was going to come out and be the same person and everything was going to be just like it was before. I had no idea what I was in for.
General Costanza survived the procedure. And while the next 6 months were a nightmare, he received assistance from some unlikely sources. Today, he's still serving and is currently the commanding general of the 5th Corps, which plays a key role in the Army's presence in Europe. Operating out of Poland, he is as close to the Russo-Ukrainian War as possible. In today's episode, our hosts sit down with General Costanza to discuss how he was able to manage recovery while still serving, lessons he's learned from working with NATO partners and observing the war in Ukraine, and how homebrewing helps bring units together. And 9 years after surgery, does he still do those long runs?
I'm too old for that now, but I am doing PT every day because, again, like I said, PT saved my life. I can say that, right?
I'm Carrie Varouhaikis, and this is Army Matters.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant General Retired Leslie C. Smith, and I'm here with my best buddy, my good friend,
Retired Sergeant Major of the Army, Daniel A. Dailey. I noticed you put the C in there.
The emphasis on it. That's right.
Yeah.
What does A stand for?
Antonio.
Antonio.
Yeah.
Antonio Banderas. Oh, great.
Okay, so my mom loved the movie Bonanza. She loved when she was pregnant with me. And her favorite actor was a guy named Hoss on the movie.
Yeah, I know Hoss, the movie.
Right?
Yeah, I know Hoss. Big old guy.
Yeah, and so she told my father she wanted to name me Hoss.
Haas.
And my dad said no. And then she found out his real name was Daniel Block. So she said, all right, we're going to name him Daniel. And she liked it because it was a Western, because she was a little girl. She actually lived in San Antonio when she was a kid, just for a short period, right?
Okay.
So she said it's going to be Daniel Antonio Dailey. That's it. That's the story.
Oh, and you're sticking to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's so special.
Les, you...
What are we talking about today, Dan? What are we doing, bruh? Huh?
Well, we're going to do a podcast.
We're going to do a podcast.
Right? For our listeners' sake.
So I'll let you ask me questions
All right,
first,
here we go.
Since you like to doing that anyway. Go ahead.
It's like Jeopardy. It's like Stump the General. Stump the General. Here we go. Ready? What is your favorite country in Europe?
I will say Germany was probably great, but I've been to a lot of places. Switzerland,
Italy.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of places. I just loved it.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, no, wait. We got to. So you got to just stick with one. Just give me the. Just give me.
Okay, Germany,
Okay. Why?
Deutschland,
Why?
because it was our first duty assignment. So I was a young lieutenant in Germany. Reforgers were going on. The wall was still up too. By the way.
Let's focus on a young lieutenant's after work activities. In
No.
Germany. No, we don't want to do that.
No.
Okay.
Well, you can say it, but we don't have to say it.
Yeah.
Well, after work activities, after the motor pool was squared away, and especially on the weekends, we had fun.
Yeah, we had fun.
Yeah.
That's my favorite too.
Yeah. Germany? Why?
I like it. I grew up in Pennsylvania. It's got the same kind of
Vibe.
the same type of four season kind of thing. A lot of my wife's relatives were Pennsylvania Dutch, which were descendants of German. The food, was what I was used to, and my dad got to go to Germany, and he used to tell us back in the '60s, and he used to tell us stories all the time. And my brother joined the army, and he didn't get to go to Germany, so I was
he went happy.
Yeah.
So is that why you like brewing beer?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if there's a connection to Germany to that. That's more of a connection to you remember my company commander that started the brewery.
Yeah.
But I enjoy a glass of beer. I mean,
and Dan, today's guest has served in Europe several times, and he's currently in Poland, not Germany, and dealing with an important mission over there. And he's currently the commanding general of 5th Corps. Should we bring him on?
yeah.
General Charles Costanza, welcome to Army Matters, sir.
Hey, sir, it's great to be here. You and SMA, I appreciate y'all spending some time with me, and I really look forward to being part of this podcast.
Sir, if you don't mind, we like to have a little fun in the beginning of the show, kind of lighten it up for our listeners a little bit.
No, that's great.
So we want to talk about your experience there in Poland and the lap of luxury that you're living in. Can you describe your accommodations to our listeners of the Corps commander, the highest ranking officer in the Corps? What are your living accommodations right now in Poland?
Sure, SMA. I'm glad you started out with that one. I live in Poznan, Poland. I don't have quarters back in the States. I got my RAV4 is parked in front of the headquarters there at Fort Knox, and it's got a bunch of my stuff in it. That's really all I have back in the States. Okay. And everything else is in my barracks room here in Poznan, Poland. And I share that barracks room and the latrine with my 5 best friends. Just like everybody else. It looks like a bad dorm room when you walk in there, right? It's pretty rough.
Yeah. Is Sergeant Major doing room inspections for you?
Yes, I was going to say the command Sergeant Major makes me do barracks maintenance once a week to make sure I'm at least cleaning it up.
So do you make up your bed every day like a soldier?
I do. Yes, sir. Every day.
That's great.
Well, sir, you've been there for almost a year now, right? So you must speak fluent Polish by now, don't you? Or?
No, it's Polska jest moim domem, which is Poland is my home.
Okay.
I'll tell you, Polish is like, I speak German all right. Polish is a hard language. It is hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So sprechen eine auf Deutsch? Eine bisschen auf Deutsch.
Ich spreche Deutsch, aber Kinderdeutsch. So,
as a child, a little Deutsch. Okay, excellent. Now, you sprechen Sie Deutsch, Dan?
Nine.
First duty station. So
I can order a beer.
Einmal bitte, right? Yeah, that's good.
And I can do Charlie, that in Polish. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you? Okay. So you grew up as an Army brat.
So I was born in Fort Carson, Colorado. My dad was an infantry officer. He graduated from West Point in 1967. Not a great year to be graduating from West Point. So he went immediately as a rifle platoon leader to Vietnam. He didn't last very long. Got pretty seriously wounded in about month number 3. Spent a year on convalescent leave, and then went back again as a rifle company commander in 1st of the 506th in the 101st.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of how I grew up, kind of traveled all around. And then we settled in Texas. I graduated from high school in Texas. So I call Texas home. But really, I mean, it's just because where we ended up.
Sir, before we talk more about your Army experience, what did your father's Army experience teach you? And the value of service?
Values. Yeah, values, Sergeant Major. I think that's the biggest thing, right? When growing up in the Army, we did the little plastic dog tag that had leadership on it, and we all kind of laughed about that. But I will tell you, as a division commander, as a brigade commander, and now as a corps commander, those values, Army values, are exactly right. They're exactly right. And if we all lived those, we would just be in a much better place, everybody. And my dad, I think the biggest thing he taught me was the selfless service part, right? I mean, I watched him as a kid, and I just always knew I wanted to serve somehow.
So, Charlie, we heard that you almost joined the Navy. Talk to us about that. What happened, man? What's going on?
Yes, sir. So I told you, I always wanted to serve, and I didn't really matter what capacity. And so I applied like everybody does. I applied to West Point. I applied to the Naval Academy. I did all the ROTC scholarship piece. And I had a 4-year Navy ROTC scholarship. I almost went to Notre Dame with that. I got an appointment and accepted to the Naval Academy. And that's the direction I was going. And at the nth hour, the last minute, West Point said, "Oh, yeah, well, we'll take you too." So, and that's where I decided to go.
Wow. Yeah. We almost lost him to the other side of the football field.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
My goodness.
Yeah. SMA, I wouldn't be here now if I had gone that route, I'm afraid, right? So.
I'm sure you would have, sir. You would have been he would have been an admiral.
I think so.
Yeah.
Now, Charlie, can you share with us an important lesson you learned after graduating from West Point?
Listen to my NCOs, right? I mean, but no, I mean, I remember this, and I remember as a platoon leader, I was just gonna jump in and just be that guy, right? Everybody's gonna love. And so I remember coming back from a training event, and it was a Friday, so we're getting ready to roll into the weekend. We got in late, and I told all the soldiers, "Hey, just quickly clean the weapons, put them in the arms room, and y'all go home." And I hadn't talked to, guess who?
The platoon sergeant.
And so,
I would have been upset. I would have been upset.
Oh yeah, he was. And he made a point.
What, you remember his name, Charlie?
Oh boy.
Yes, that's okay.
Sergeant First Class Justice. Justice was his name. And yeah, Justice was about right, because that's what I got, right? For letting him go. I mean, I let him go, and I watched him, and I stayed with him till about 2 a.m. as he hauled everything out, all the trucks, cleaned everything up. He did it all himself. I helped him. And that was a lesson, right? It's like, hey, before you make a decision, it's a team effort. You and your right arm, you got them for a reason. You ought to share those kind of things before you make a decision. And so I learned that early. At least I learned it as a lieutenant and not as a division commander, right?
Yeah, that's probably, yeah. You wouldn't have made it that far if you had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we always talk to our guests about mistakes and the lessons they've learned from that. What would you say is one of your bigger mistakes, and what lesson did you learn from it?
Yeah, I got asked this question. It's a great question, sir. I got asked this question. I was at Texas A&M last week, talking at the Bush School, and talking to the Corps cadets. And somebody asked me that question, and it took me a while to think through it. And I'll just say it was when I was a battalion commander. And like all of us, when we're in command, we're just going to go, and we're not going to really pay attention to ourselves. And I remember it was toward the end of the tour. I was really tired. I hadn't slept well. I'm not eating well. I'm not doing PT like I should. And I made some poor decisions, and the poor decisions that I made ended up in casualties. And I took that I should personally. And I didn't take care of myself. And as a result, I let down my soldiers. That changed kind of how I viewed things moving forward. And I'm no good to them if I'm tired or making bad decisions. So I have to think through that a little differently.
Yeah.
Now, sir, in the teaser, we heard about your brain tumor diagnosis. Can you tell us what that period taught you?
The first thing is just how much support rallies around you and your family when you're in a situation like that, right? The other thing is when you're in a dark place like that, you really need people to talk to you that have been in a similar dark place, right? So, for example, when I got diagnosed, one of my good friends from when I was a battalion commander, Tim Karcher, Lieutenant Colonel retired, now Colonel retired, Tim Karcher. He lost both his legs in Iraq when we were battalion commanders above the knee, quad array, EFP. When he found out I had a brain tumor, he got in his car, he drove from Texas to Georgia, and he said, "Let me tell you what you're getting ready to go through." And that helped. And understanding and having that little connection, you're getting ready to go to this dark place and here's what it's going to be. So I think those two things, the community support, the family support, I wouldn't be here without that.
Yeah. Now, Charlie, how long was the recovery process?
So chemo is designed to kill everything in your body, healthy and cancer, whatever it is, everything, with the hopes that your body will jumpstart again and start reproducing those white blood cells and get going. And so I was a brigade commander, so I decided, hey, I feel great. I'm going back to work. And my white blood count wasn't high enough. So sure enough, I went in, did a command and staff, and next day I was back in the hospital with meningitis. And so I recovered from meningitis. I'm like, I got to go back to work. And so I go back to work and I went into respiratory failure, and because my white blood count wasn't high enough. And so after the second time, my wife said, hey, this is enough. And she put me in an isolation tank in an apartment up in Atlanta where nobody could visit me. And then I actually got healthy again. So it was a little longer of a recovery because I didn't listen to what people were telling me because I thought I needed to get back to work. So it was 6 months. It took me 6 months.
So you were still serving while in the hospital bed?
Yeah.
You got to tell us a little bit. I know you're a hard charging brigade commander. Tell us, were you like signing papers or, giving orders, counseling statements? What was going on?
Morning stand up around the hospital bed.
Yeah. Come on, battalion commander.
So I found out about this later on. So General Murray, the division commander, was in Afghanistan. So he said, hey, Charlie, we're not going to pull you out of command. We're going to leave you in command. And, of course, you got to pull somebody up to do the day-to-day stuff because you're not there. So one of the battalion commanders stepped up. But what my wife hatched with the brigade staff was a plan for them to come and see me every once in a while and pretend like I was still doing work. So they would bring stuff to me every day to sign or do whatever. And it was all kind of not super real important stuff. But she said, hey, this gives him a purpose. And so he's going to stay focused on this and keep going. And then after the fact, when I was recovered, she said, hey, that was all just kind of made up. We just did that to make you feel good. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. So
that's pretty cool.
We're used to that as NCO, sir. We have to make the officers.
Yeah. You do it all the time. Okay, I got you.
We do it all the time.
And he still does it now.
Still do it now.
Yeah, he still
it's
does
my
it
job
now.
to make Les feel important every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you know that as a member of AUSA, you have access to many benefits? From car rental to entertainment discounts, the opportunities are ample. Visit us online at ausa.org/benefits to learn more.
Now, sir, you are currently the commander of 5th Corps. Can you tell us a little history about the Corps?
When I was in Germany earlier in the week, I got ambushed by the German media, right? And of course, they want to immediately go and start talking about, the new administration and things like that. And what I told them is, hey, look, a Fifth Corps was born in 1918 in order to liberate Europe in World War I. That's why we exist. That's why we got born. And then we were back again in World War II to liberate Europe. A lot of people don't know Fifth Corps was the corps that was responsible for Omaha Beach, right? And so we're back again, liberating Europe. And guess what? We're here now to defend Europe against Russian aggression. And we're not leaving. And so I think that the history and our connection to Europe, sir, is super important. And I think that's why I think it matters that we're here now.
So, sir, you're out front there for our nation, and the soldiers are out there. And, our soldiers do amazing. I love them. I wish I was there with them. But you're out there talking to them every day. Two things. How are the troops doing? And what advice do you give them when you're out on the ground?
Just for context, so your listeners understand, I'm responsible for 27,500 rotational soldiers, right? So that's the 1 division, 5 brigades. And they're stationed on forward operating sites, 23 of them, from Estonia to Bulgaria. So 9 different countries, all on the eastern flank of Europe. And then I've got the 3 brigades that are permanently assigned in Germany that I'm responsible for. So I get out often. I'm not really here very often.
Yeah.
I live out of a suitcase, and that's kind of how I do things. I think, number one, the Polish people and the folks, our NATO allies on the eastern flank of Europe, they just treat us great. They know they need us here in Eastern Europe. And so they treat us that way. And most of unlike the United States, where all our bases are in the middle of nowhere for the Army, here they're right in next to cities and towns, most of them. And so, having a relationship with the community is always great. I think a lot of times they ask the question, well, hey, why are we here, right? Why are we in Eastern Europe? And I said, it's a standard answer. Hey, Fifth Corps mission, you're here to assure our NATO allies and then deter Russian aggression. And that's a great bumper sticker, but sometimes it doesn't resonate with them, right? And so what Command Sergeant Major Blaisdell and I start saying is, hey, did anybody know what Article 5 is? And you'll talk a little bit about that and explain it to them. And you go, hey, when was the last time NATO invoked Article 5? And they just look at you. It was 9/11. It was 9/11. And so all those NATO forces that jumped and came to our aid then and supported us through 20 years plus on the global war of terror, that was all because of Article 5 in NATO. And so when you say that to them, then they have a little bit of a different feel for it. And then also, as you describe the Russian army and where it's at and what a real threat it is, that opens their eyes too.
Well, sir, you mentioned the Russo-Ukrainian War, and there have been a lot of developments in warfare, and we've seen it moving rapidly during this war. How do you feel about drone technology and how it's changing the battlefield?
SMA, that's a great question, right? And I think here's the story, right? So Ukraine will develop a drone capability on Monday, and that'll be effective for that day. And then the next day, Tuesday, the Russians figured out how to counter it. And so Wednesday, they're having to develop a different capability. And that's how fast this technology on both sides is going. And we aren't designed to do that, right? I think we all know this. Combat is going to force you to innovate quickly, right? It just is. And we've seen that throughout history. And you're seeing it in Ukraine and in Russia. I think, transformation in contact that the chief has started up, where we take equipment that's available right now and get it in the hands of soldiers quickly, like loitering munitions or one-way drones, all of that kind of stuff that we're seeing be effective in Ukraine. And you get it in the hands of soldiers quickly, that's helping, but it's still not going at the speed you see innovation happening in Ukraine.
Now, Charlie, you've been a lot of places and seen a lot of things. Are there any other lessons that you've learned while operating in Poland?
I think it's that personal contact with our NATO partners matters, right? This is why I live out of a suitcase, like I told you, sir. So, I mean, I have to go and look those partners in the eye, and they want to see that. And so that's why I travel all over the place. I was just with the 1st German Netherlands Corps, talking with the Corps commander there, and that matters. And I think that lessons not just with our NATO partners. I think that's in anything we do.
What are you hearing from our NATO partners and the Poles? You're spending so much time out there talking to them, sir, and that's amazing. What are their sentiments after 3 years of war?
Well, I think the first thing I would tell you, SMA, is if you're on the eastern flank of Europe, the threat of Russia is real.
It's real, yeah.
So as we have discussions about NATO and NATO's not moving fast enough, well, it depends on where you are in NATO. So if you're on the border of Russia, Belarus, they call it Belarusia, or Ukraine, they are moving quickly to make up that gap of 35 years of kind of Cold War's over, peace is savings, all that. They're moving fast. The Poles are an example of that. They spend 4.7% of their GDP on defense, 4.7, and we spend 3.1. And they have another 5% that goes to support Ukraine, right? So these countries are moving fast to make up that difference, and they know they got to move fast. As you go further west in NATO and you're away from the threat a little different sense of urgency. But for the countries from Estonia down to Romania, there's a real sense of urgency, and they're moving quickly.
Yes, sir. So you spent a lot of time in Europe. You're over in Poland now. The troops are over there for 9 months. What do you and the troops miss the most about America? Like, what's the thing that you can't get over there that you're like, man, we just missed a little bit of home? What's the little bit of home that you guys miss?
America, right? I mean,
McDonald's.
We got McDonald's.
Okay.
So two things we brought to Europe for sure is McDonald's and PowerPoint, right? Which is, both of those are terrible.
Not PowerPoint.
Oh yeah. All our NATO partners use PowerPoint. No, I think it's our families, right?
Yeah.
We rotate the headquarters over here. And there's no families over here. And I think we miss that. I mean, it's always when you're deployed, that's what you miss.
Yeah. Now, sir, a little mouse whispered in my ear something about you, which we actually have in common. I heard that you are a home brewer just like me. And I've been told to ask you, what is Uncle Chuck's Brewery?
You guys got like spies everywhere or something, right? Because you guys know all this stuff. I've been brewing beer since I was a second lieutenant at the National Training Center, right? But when I was a division commander, what I would do is units would say, hey, I want a certain kind of beer from my unit with a special unit label on it. And so I'd say, okay, that's fine. The deal is you got to come over on a Saturday and help me do it. And so they'd spend Saturday afternoon brewing beer with me. And as a result, they'd get 2 cases of beer. My daughter is a graphic artist. She'd make the label for them and make it. It was always really cool. Mm-hmm. And it'd be whatever flavor beer they wanted to have. I'd get all the ingredients. And then it gave me half a day to just spend time with that command team, right? So, and my daughter named the brewery out in the garage Uncle Chuck's Brewery, right? So,
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So the name of my brewery is the Daily Buzz. Daily Buzz. Yeah. So I raise cool. bees and I use my honey a lot of time in some recipes.
Yeah.
So when you going to bring us some down from Pennsylvania there, brother?
It's actually against the law for me to transport beer across.
No, you can estimate.
I think there's a certain volume. There's a certain volume.
All we need is a liter. We don't need like a keg size.
You generally think they could come to my house and enjoy the beer.
Well, you haven't invited us, brother. So when you invite us, we'll come.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Charlie.
Well, I'm going to give General Costanza a beer when he gets back. So
SMA, I'll take you up on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, sir, thanks for your incredible service, your sacrifice, and sharing your story today. It's an honor to have you on Army Matters, but it's more of an honor to have you serving our great nation. Thank you. Yeah.
We're proud of you, man.
Hey, thanks, SMA. Sure, thanks.
Yeah.
Every October, AUSA hosts its annual meeting and exposition, and at last year's event, we invited attendees to swing by our booth and answer some questions. One thing we asked everyone was, what drew you to a life of service and inspired you to continue? Today, we'll hear two stories, both involving teamwork and fun. The first tale is about bad weather in South Korea.
My name is Chief Warrant Officer 5 Robert Lakes, and I'm stationed at U.S. Army Europe and Africa as their Senior Maintenance Officer in Wiesbaden, Germany. In 1992, in South Korea, and we were in the field, and our team was kind of struggling because it was extreme weather. That's just kind of how South Korea is. But we bonded, and I really enjoyed the team that I got put on and the team concept. And I've kind of continued that through my entire career. And that's one of my biggest initiatives when I get to a unit is, okay, we've got to build the team. A lot of times it's not what you do, it's who you do it with. I've spent a lot of time in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I can tell you it's not about fighting the enemy. It's about doing it for whoever's standing on your left and right.
And our second story is about a private who started pestering his NCO with questions.
Johnny Workman. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel out of the United States Army. I remember one time where I was a private, and I was out on a range, and I'm a field artillery guy. We were shooting the howitzers, and I remember asking all these questions to my NCO, and he was answering them all. And I was just thinking to myself, as I looked at him and some of the other NCOs, I said, this is too fun not to do forever. So, yeah, that was kind of a point in which I kind of made the decision that I was going to stick with the Army as long as the Army let me hang around.
If you'd like to share your call to service or Army story, leave us a voicemail at 703-236-2914 or email a voice note to podcast@ausa.org.
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. Army Matters is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army-connected. Visit us at ausa.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General Retired Les Smith and SMA Retired Dan Dailey, and anchor hosted by Carrie Barrow-Heckes. Anthony Del Call is the producer and writer, and Andy Bosnack is the supervising sound editor. Ellen Toner is the content editor. Unzinga Curry is the executive producer, and the senior producers are Carrie Barrow-Heckes and LaSharon Duncan. Be sure to subscribe to Army Matters wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Reach Across America Radio on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app with the search of the word Reef. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you're not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA. For questions or to provide topic recommendations, email us at podcast@ausa.org. I'm LaSharon Duncan. Hope you have a great Army Day. Hooah!